So the book is first and foremost a narrative history of post-war Europe. And so it includes all the key events that one might expect to find in such a book, such as the refugee crisis at the end of World War II, the communist takeover of Eastern Europe, the development of the Cold War, decolonisation, the 1968 student uprisings, the oil crises of the 1970s, and through to the collapse of communism and events caused by the collapse of communism or arising from them, such as German unification, the wars in Yugoslavia, and leading through to the politics of austerity today. Beyond that, I wanted to do something more than just provide a narrative of events, and that's to try and think of a framework through which one can make sense of those events. And that framework is what I've called the rise and fall of the anti-fascist consensus. So to say that in Western Europe, a kind of Christian Democrat, Social Democrat framework was put in place, which smothered any discussion of fascism and what it had meant, and that in communist Eastern Europe, anti-fascism was a key ideological term used by the communists themselves to legitimize their rule. Since the 1970s, and even more so since the end of the Cold War, what we see is the collapse of that consensus and the rise, particularly in the context of the politics of austerity, of memory wars, the revival of ideas that were presumed to be dead and buried. So on the one hand, we have I think a refreshing and stark examination of what really took place in Europe during World War II, so telling the truth about the resistance movements, about liberation and so on, but also allows people with more apologetic arguments about fascism also to voice their concerns. And these we can see very clearly in the current political circumstances in Europe.